Good evening. This is Monday, January 26th, and we're going to be on the Community Facilities Districts, the city of Goodyear, Arizona, and we have 10 of them. So the first one is Community Facilities District number 1, Palm Valley Community Facilities District number 3. Number three, Community Facilities Utility Districts, number 1. Number 4, Wildflower Ranch Community Facilities District. Number 5 is Wildflower Ranch Community Facilities District, number 2. 6 is Cottonflower Community Facilities District. 7 is Estrella Mountain Ranch Community Facilities District. 8 is King Ranch Community Facilities District. 9 is Centerra Community Facilities District. And 10 is Cortina Community Facilities District. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I'm going to announce that we all are here this evening. We have no communication.
Mayor, there seems to be a huge echo. Are we going to be listening to an echo all evening?
I don't know. Can we have someone check that a moment before we continue?
Sorry.
I'm hearing it here, but
yeah, well,
I figured it was me.
No, it's all of us, I think. Thank you.
You're hearing it there, too?
Thank you.
You don't hear it on that side.
No.
You hear the echo.
No, I do.
He does.
Oh, you do hear the echo.
You're not going crazy over there.
All right.
Work with me on this.
Thank you.
Well, she didn't fall for the what joke, so I had to. You're what? I'm only going to talk into the mic so that they actually have sound in which to calibrate this. So, because I'm sure it's hard to do it.
Go ahead.
With silence.
Yeah, how about a song?
Oh, and you don't want me doing that. Does anybody have a birthday coming up?
I'm assuming somebody will signal us.
Yeah.
All right, we're on. Is that better? Wally, would you like to speak in that microphone a minute so I can see? I can hear. It's
Are we supposed
okay?
to be joining?
Oh, wait a minute. I turned it off, and it's off.
Are we doing this
for
again?
good, forever.
Mayor, he's giving you something to join.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
They say it should be all right. Okay.
Is it okay now? Oh, yes. Thank you. It's not echoing. Thank you very much.
So that we're all on the same page, this is Monday, January 26, 2015. And I did say we were all here. There are no communications tonight, but now is the time for citizens who would like to address the city district on any non-agenda item. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Chairman Lord.
Thank you. Does anyone from the audience wish to speak? All right. Then would the district clerk please read consent agenda items by title only?
5.1, approved draft minutes from a CFD joint meeting held on December 8, 2014.
Does anyone wish to remove, from the public, wish to remove an item from this consent agenda? All right, then could I have, please, excuse me, does anyone from the board wish to remove an item from this consent agenda? All right, could I please have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda from a chairman, a vice chair, or a board member?
So moved.
Second.
All right, then we heard a motion from Chairman Campbell and a second from Board Member Campbell and Board Member Loretano. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo.
Aye.
Board Member Osborne.
Aye.
Board Member Loretano.
Aye.
Board Member Campbell.
Aye.
Board Member Stipp.
Aye.
Board Member Homan.
Aye.
Chairman Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, let's go to 6.1, which is one item on business tonight. The board will consider adopting a resolution authorizing the levy of an assessment for the eventual insurance of a special assessment revenue bonds of Montecito Assessment District Number 2. Scott Ruby, District Attorney, to present. Scott?
Chairperson Lord, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Members of the board, thank you. Nice to see you. I've been told I had a half hour, so if I repeat myself, it's not an echo. I'm just going to kill the entire half hour.
Thank you, Scott.
I also have to give you a warning because the mayor accused me.
Oh, I was teasing him.
You are not
tonight.
in trouble. All right. She said the only time she sees me is when you're in trouble, and I can't recall when you've ever been in trouble. So,
To our
Yeah.
you've never been in trouble. You guys
Is the
do
press in the
everything
room?
perfectly. That's right. And when you get in trouble, it's Rourke that
Oh, there you
bails you out, not
There we
me.
go.
So I'll
Okay.
be the last person up here to help you out on that front. But all right, to the business, if we can. Before you tonight, as you recall, we have taken a few steps with respect to Australia Mountain CFD, Australia Ranch, Mountain Ranch CFD. And previously, we had a feasibility hearing about an assessment bond issue, and Larry Lang was here to present all that and did so perfectly. This is the next step in that process, which is actual resolution authorizing the issuance of assessment bonds in an amount not to exceed $5,500,000. Now, we fully expect it will be less, and I will get to a detail in the resolution in just a second about that figure. We will appear before you, just to warn you in case you want to be absent that night, but I need 4 of you there. One more time, and that will be when the work is completed, we'll come back and have the final assessment hearing, which really will accomplish 2 things. It will be a hearing that anyone could appear at and make a complaint either that the assessments were not levied correctly, and 2, that the work may not have been performed in accordance with the plans and specs. Now, again, because we know that this area right now is not occupied by any resident, it's a developer, I have a hunch the developer is not going to complain that the assessment was levied inappropriately, and I have a hunch since the developer is an acquisition district, since the developer built the improvements, we're not going to hear that they were installed incorrectly. But that is the last process the statutes require us to have, and we'll be back before you after that construction is complete. Tonight's resolution is probably familiar to you. It's what we adopt in the assessment world. It's a resolution that, as I mentioned, authorizes the issuance of assessment bonds, and in this case to the underwriter, which is Stifel Nicklaus, who we have Bob Casillas back there to answer any questions on that front, and also Larry Given, your financial advisor, is here to answer any questions you might have about the pricing or the actual money side of the bond deal. And the developer's here too. Alper's in the back, and I'm sure he could answer questions if you had developer issues. And last, I guess if I'm introducing everybody, my partner Jim Giel, who does all the drafting on these. I'm too old for that, I guess. He's in the audience also. So with that, now you have the full roster of folks. One thing I did mention, we have previously actually levied an assessment. The way this process works is you, in a deal where the construction hasn't been completed, you levy an assessment for a not to exceed amount. So we actually did levy an assessment in an amount of $5,500,000 against the property. And we've allocated that assessment in the case of the areas where we have approved plats to the individual lots. And in a case where we don't have approved plats, we've levied in bulk to the acreage that will ultimately come before you with a plat. And at that time, we'll amend the assessment to apply on a per lot basis. As I mentioned, it was $5,500,000, but we still have a couple things to do. Number one, we need to price the bonds. And so the $5.5 million was anticipating a conservative interest rate. And that's important because we are capitalizing interest on the bonds for a short period of time. That simply means we're selling bonds, some of the proceeds of which will be used to make the first interest payment date. And we do that when we haven't finished the improvements yet. We need to capitalize that interest. Well, obviously, we could size the capitalized interest at an amount which would be, very, very safe, but rather, because we have the one more proceeding before you, rather than doing that, we size this once we know the actual amount of or interest rate on the bonds. We'll size that capitalized interest figure down. We'll also have the final costs that will size that assessment down. So what you have in your resolution that we added to kind of cover that circumstance, in Section 17, we added that the assessment levied and recorded may hereafter be reduced to the actual principal amount of the bonds issued, and any such reduction is hereby approved. So I wanted you to be aware of that. It's different from what you have in your draft, and again, it allows us to push that assessment down from its $5.5 million mark to whatever the actual bond amount is. And obviously, we will recapitulate, is the term the statute uses, those assessments with respect to each and every lot. Okay? So, as I mentioned, this is a bond resolution. It appoints or allows for the appointment of a registrar. It also dictates the flow of funds and how the proceeds are to be spent. The proceeds in this case are spent to reimburse or to acquire from the developer the infrastructure that they've constructed. So I stand for questions. I haven't used my half hour, so it's up to you to give me 20 minutes worth of questions.
Thank you. Very well done.
Thank you.
Are there any speaker cards?
No, Chairman Lord.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Okay, would the city clerk, district clerk, please read the resolution by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution EMR CFD Resolution 15-097, authorizing the issuance of its Montecito Assessment District Number 2 Special Assessment Revenue Bond Series 2015 in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $5,500,000, approving the form and authorizing the execution and delivery of a bond registrar, transfer agent, and paying agent contract, a purchase contract relating to the bonds, a continuing disclosure undertaking, a dissemination agency agreement, and certain other documents securing the payment of or relating to the bonds, ratifying and approving a preliminary limited offering memorandum relating to the bonds, approving a final limited offering memorandum related to the bonds, awarding the bonds to the purchaser thereof, appointing a registrar, transfer agent, and paying agent and dissemination agent for the bonds, and taking other actions securing the payment of and relating to the bonds.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from from Board Member Stipp and a second from Board Member Loretano. Open for board discussion. Board Member, Vice Chairman Pizzillo.
Just a couple, Mr. Ruby. On the actual tax bill, on this particular parcel there, we used to have two bills. I think the city billed, and then it came in on the tax bill itself from the county. Will this all process through one bill through the county, these assessments?
Chairperson Lord, Board Member Pizzillo, the way we work this with the treasurer is we try to have it billed on the same bill as the tax bill, but only when residents are involved. Because up until that time, the way the process works at the county, if we were to give them all of these assessments, and now remember, a lot of this area has been platted already, so there's, hundreds, I won't say hundreds, but a lot of lots out there. And so they charge by the assessment. And so what would happen, they would tack on their $11 or $12 fee to every single one of them, when in reality, right now, they're all owned by the developer. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we wait in order to get residents there before we move it to the tax rolls. So for this interim time period, for the initial time period, we will bill, the CFD, Sheila in particular, will bill the developer. And then once those move into residential status, they'll be on the tax bill.
So once you actually have a resident there, as far as the tax bill, will there just be one bill coming from the county, just like we get from any other, like the city's property tax, that will include that CFD?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, again, we will move them over to the tax bill when sales actually start. We don't move one over at a time. Once the subdivision kind of grows into an active mode, then we move it over.
Because if I recall right, and I used to be there was two pieces. There was a piece that actually got billed by the tax department, and then there was twice a year they were getting tax bills themselves. And I guess my question, I'll just make sure I'm asking right, that's all combined eventually now into one, so there's not that split anymore.
That's correct. The assessment statutes provide that the bills go out actually in May, and then they're to be paid by June 30th, and it has its kind of own time schedule, although it does allow you to enter into an agreement with the treasurer and get on the tax bill, which, as you know from our own tax bills,
right,
the timing on that.
Okay.
So we eliminate that kind of dual, wait a minute, what's going on here?
We actually made that change on this council. Some of you were on. I was on when we made that change. I think I remember that distinctly. I'm sorry, was this Board Member Osborne, you want to speak?
Just, and I appreciate Mr. Pizzillo's question. I was concerned about that also. But on top of this, I just, for memory's sake, is there another CFD on top of this CFD? So, like in Palm Valley, for example, there's two over one household. Is this one in another area too that has an overlapping CFD on top of this one also? I don't remember.
It is not.
It does
There's
not.
only one CFD. It will have a geotax for its bonds. It has a geotax for the maintenance, and it will have this assessment bill.
I'm just trying to visualize that bill when it finally comes to the citizen, and it's going to, show the regular property tax, and then it's going to show the CFDs. And I wasn't sure if there was one or
more,
two
yeah.
for this.
As there is in
particular
Palm Valley.
spot. Yes.
Yeah, they have the
exactly.
utilities CFD
Right.
and then the general CFD.
That's what I was
Yeah,
trying
and
to
then they have the
clarify.
utilities, and it overlaps the Palm Valley CFD.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
That
not
was
the
all.
case here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Stipp was first. Board Member Stipp?
Scott, this may not necessarily be for you. This may be directed toward the city staff. But the way I'm hearing this is it possible for someone to be in their home and receive a tax bill without having this show up, and then a subsequent tax bill that now the CFD is on it? Is that possible?
Wouldn't you get something at the settlement table?
Well, it's all about, Chairperson Lord, board member Stipp, it's all a matter of when we get it to the treasurer. And so we try to time it so from day one, there are no surprises of, wait a minute, before it was this and now it's this kind of thing. I believe, Sheila, you coordinate that, right? With this?
I'm Sheila Mills, the Special Districts Taxation Administrator for the city. If the timing is we have to get it to the county treasurer by a certain time frame in July. So if there's a billing that is due for the prior December, because we wouldn't be able to put it on the property tax bill, they would get a single bill just for that assessment. Once it's down to the lot level, we have no issue of going and putting it on the property tax bill for the annual amount. So it would actually include the June of or the December of that year, which would be our fiscal year. So like this year, we had December of 2014 and June of 2015 on their property tax bill, on the ones that were to the lot level. And it's only on the ones that were passed after the law changed here in the state of Arizona. If they were the first two assessment bonds, they still get an individual bill semi-annually. But if they have, like he said, in a large parcel, we still have to individually bill those because the county has no way of knowing how to split that assessment once it gets modified.
So is there essentially there's not a sticker shock moment for the homeowner?
They're supposed to be signing a CFD disclosure as well, so they should be getting other information from the home builder. The initial homeowner would get paperwork signing that they're in a CFD and that they have an assessment on the property.
Okay.
So they're going to know that in advance. A lot of them don't remember that they've signed it.
But yeah.
But, now the disclosure from that initial owner to the next one, that's the harder one.
Yes.
Right.
They're still supposed to disclose it, but we have a harder time getting that.
Tracking that. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
But one point to that, too, it also appears on the title report. And so, even if in the stack of papers that you sign when you close a home sale, they didn't notice that. Most people do look at their title report to see what liens are on the property, and this would show up as a lien and actually have the dollar amount on it.
Okay, thanks.
I think that, Mayor Lloyd,
Yes, go ahead.
I think that the biggest thing that causes concern, at least for me, is that, and this is obviously something that we're continuing to do for Estrella Mountain Ranch because this is a master plan community that was going to continue on for quite a while, and we certainly want that infill. I think what's hard for me is that when a citizen is going out looking at different homes to purchase, they don't know about that CFD attached to it. They don't know that extra that they're going to have to pay. They just see it's a $200,000 home. They have no idea at the end of the day, that they're going to have to go and pay more. And so I think that's where we want to make sure that disclosure is definitely seen prior to them signing on the dotted line, because all of a sudden when they realize they have to come up with another, what was it, $475 a year or something, added on top to the others. Yeah. yeah, that's I think key, that we want to make sure that communication is given.
I don't know if this is a fact or not, but I don't know why it wouldn't be disclosed from an estimate from a sales rep as sitting down and giving something their cost of what their PITI would be and their taxes. Well, I know I did when I sat down and we had to give them their closing costs, and that's part of closing costs. So I don't know what they do in Arizona, but I know that those have been disclosed in other areas. Sherry, I'm sorry, Board Member Loretano.
That's fine. Yeah, I just want to follow up. I think it's really important disclosure, but I think that Estrella Mountain Ranch, it was Mountain Ranch when I bought up there, we have the 2 bills, and it was quite clear on what we had to sign. And I think a lot of it is just getting that education out to people. Unfortunately, there is a lot of cost with home ownership that people don't realize. So when this goes in with the taxes, it goes in with the escrow fund, right?
Yes.
So, which I think is much more helpful for the residents to do it this way, than people aren't having to come up with 400. It's kind of like prorated, it's adjusted. So I do like this change that has been made. I think it does take some of that pressure off because it's in the escrow statement, and that money is taken monthly. So I think that really does help, rather than here's your 2 bills like we get. We have to remember, oh yeah, I got to pay the one December and January. Right. You're not going to forget it once it gets in there. I know there's some bumps sometimes to get it in there, depending when you buy the house. But I think this is a good way to go to keep that community going. My other question is just, and I know the answer to this, but I'm asking because this is something that always comes up when we hear about CFDs. This is not going to apply to the current residents, right?
This will, Chairperson Board Member Loretano, this will only apply to this assessed benefited area and the people residing there.
Yeah, I just know that always comes up whenever we hear there's another assessment up in Estrella Mountain Ranch, and that's a big issue, that it's only applying to the people buying there who will be given notice in that area. So thank you.
Yeah, and one point, I had Alper come up and whisper in my ear. I apologize for having him do that while you were talking, but he did tell me, and I wanted to confirm what I have heard from him before, is that they insist that the builders train their sales agents, and Alper trains his sales agents to bring this up in the initial conversation, because although it may be in the paperwork at the, they've already committed and gotten their hopes up and that sort of thing, and all of a sudden, wham, they get hit between the eyes with a $600 annual bill. So it is training anyway, it is to bring it up in the very beginning.
Well, they have a very quality community. It's a very quality building, and you would expect that of them. They don't need to use trickery to sell homes and to make people happy in their community. So,
well, and I think I've never heard of a
that.
complaint about that,
Nor have I.
Chairperson, so I believe that's the case. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for those.
So roll call vote, please.
Board Member Osborne? Aye. Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
And I don't believe there's any accommodations or current reports on this board, so I'm going to adjourn it, and then our next meeting will start right at 6 o'clock because we have some public hearings. So meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Save
Thank
5
you.
minutes.
For the record, would you mind telling Larry? He could have scolded me about, Scott, make this quick, will you? Don't use the whole board.
I will tell him. I'll go right now and tell him. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.